Wesley Donehue is actually online with us, and I also didn't actually introduce properly Jack Schock, and I apologize for that. Former President Bill Clinton's ghostwriter and social media expert. I'm sorry for that. I got a little bit lost right there, but here we go. So good evening. Hello, can you hear us, Mr. Donehue?
I can, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I leave to Giuseppe the honor.
Thank you. Hello, Wesley, and good evening. Good morning.
Hey.
Hello. So, first of all, where are you right now? Are you in Colombia, or have you been moving? Where are you exactly at?
I am in Columbia, South Carolina. I just flew in. I just landed from Ohio, actually. Was up there last night. Obviously, big swing state. So, just got home.
Okay. So we are going to ask you during the panel a few updates on how the latest hours of the electoral campaign and of the election days have actually been lived by the netizens, if you allow me this expression of people who actually live the social web. So it's going to be interesting to hear from you, and also to get hopefully some backup from the students that we have here in the room with us on how the different political parts have been actually relating to each other and also to the other side online in the latest hours. So first of all, let me ask you, how do you think that the latest hours have developed in terms of online participation? Did you see any major change also because of the latest updates and the latest happenings in US with Hurricane Sandy, and how the electoral campaign have actually been switching to a completely unthought situation? So what is the situation right now in the online conversation environment?
Well, I mean, obviously, the internet is very cluttered today as it was yesterday. I mean, it's hard to weed through it because we reached this point in the later days of a campaign. But that's not unlike a major sporting event or any other major event, honestly. You see these spikes in conversation. So, you know, weeding through all the junk is very difficult. Today, it's everything from, you know, Foursquare check-ins, from people voting to you know, a lot of people talking smack. I think, you know, the later days of campaign, you really start losing the substantive issue-based conversations. So, yeah, I mean, today it's just the only word I could use is cluttered. There's just a whole lot of it. And, you know, the other part of your question as far as, you know, the last couple of weeks or Sandy, you know, a lot of people were talking about Sandy last week, but I think since, you know, really since last Thursday or Friday, the conversation has switched back mostly to the campaign. Not hearing a whole lot online right now about Sandy.
Thank you, Wesley. So I will actually involve also Mr. Jack Schock into the conversation. I don't know, you've been, you told me earlier that you've been in Italy in the latest weeks. Have you had the chance to follow the online conversation and how they developed in the latest period?
Yes, I have. I've been in Italy since September, and first of all, I love your country, and I don't want to go home.
Thank you.
But it's been the only thing that I've really followed is the 10 to 15 emails I get every single day from President Obama, and as late as yesterday, one from apparently Beyonce. So somehow Beyonce got my email address, although I'm pretty sure that it really wasn't from Beyonce. Although, so yes, I feel like I've been very connected. Although my attention to the news has been down somewhat this cycle.
All right, thank you. Well, this is a very interesting first element that is actually also interesting on how Italians in the latest years have been slowly changing the way they relate to the political environment. The fact that the political communication is becoming more and more personal, in the sense that also through social media, we obviously relate to a name, a face, somebody who has a Twitter account, a Facebook account, and we all try to engage directly to these people, sometimes thinking that we are actually engaging with the proper politician, but instead relating with community managers or ghostwriter, if you allow me. Probably they are the 2.0 ghostwriters of our era, kind of probably a different version of what you had been doing for Clinton earlier. But how do you see that, because there is something very interesting that also Wesley have been some months ago, he wrote on an article, and we're going to relate to him later about that. It's actually interesting to understand how this whole new personal level is developing, but because the whole political, the election message has been changing, switching to a more personal level to every single voter, basically. So how did that actually change the way politicians actually do politics? Because they expect people to relate to them in a much more personal way.
I think I've got the answer to that. I'm not really sure, and Wesley, of course, you feel free to chime in, but I think I can put my finger on it. And I think it was the day when Bill Clinton was being interviewed by the MTV camera, and the student, not unlike you, although you probably weren't even born then, said, "Do you wear boxers or briefs?" And instead of looking sweetly at the student and saying, "You know, I don't really talk about those kinds of things," he said, "I wear boxers." Mm-hmm. And that was the point at which I began to answer roughly 2,000 letters a week based on thank you notes to gifts that people would send him that were largely boxer shorts of all crazy things. And I think that might have been the point at which the president wasn't just photographed like perhaps President Reagan on his famous ranch, in a real human situation, cutting trees and riding the horse and all those kinds of things. But this was the point at which the president, the man who would become the president, was talking about a really, really personal thing, and I think that opened it up, because my goodness, I wish I had time to tell you all the letters that I wrote thanking for all the crazy things that people sent to the president. And now you've got the president talking to you in your pocket. Probably since we've been here tonight, or the candidates are talking to you in your pocket. So I've seen just in my short career, 17 years now, that swoop from keeping the president on a pedestal where he stands in front of a room and speaks to talking about intimate things, and then now he's in your pocket.
That is actually very interesting, because to me, the first question that actually raises, and it directly relates to what Wesley Donehue does, because I know, Wesley, you do not like this kind of expression, but can I call you spin doctor? Is that exactly what you do?
That's fine.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. So my question, first question would be for you. Do you actually personally find yourself into to teach to your candidates maybe how to relate to social media, or maybe even teaching the community managers that are going to be doing that for them, or maybe yourself actually managing social accounts? And how do you relate to the public? Do you actually impersonate your candidate, kind of giving the idea that you are him or her, or kind of playing on the double edge of that? So how does really the personal side of the communication, how is actually really openly discussed or maintained in that kind of shadowy environment in which voters are got to think that they're engaging directly with their own candidate? Yeah,
so it varies. The answer to your question is it's different for every single campaign that we do. So my staff is we're at about 16 people right now, and we do races, really everything from local municipal races like city council up to, Congress, governor, U.S. Senate, and we were even doing some presidential stuff in the Republican primary. Every level is different. So local candidates, state legislative candidates, we typically teach those people how to use the web. And they are typically very hands-on. So when you talk to, say, a South Carolina state senator, it's typically that actual state senator you're talking to, or that city councilman. Once you get up to Congress or U.S. Senate, typically it's us impersonating that person. We do have some congressional candidates that tweet themselves. We got a guy, hold on a second. Hey, Elizabeth, will you hand me a plug? Because my computer's about to die. And I need the adapter, too. Sorry, guys, I was about to go black on you because my computer's about to die. We've got a congressional candidate who's going to win tonight, a guy named Tom Cotton out of Arkansas. He's a congressional candidate. He tweets himself. Everything he does himself. We actually have some U.S. Senate candidates. A couple of them do themselves. But the large majority of your higher echelon candidates, it's my guys teaching them. Or I'm sorry, it's my guys speaking for them. And what we do in those situations is we go and we spend some time personally with the candidate when we take them on as a client. And we get to know them. We get to know their voice. Thank you. And then day by day, we typically know how to respond to people or talk to people, but there's always instances throughout every day where we actually have to contact the candidate himself and ask, how would you respond to this? A lot of times it's personal questions like the boxers or briefs question, but sometimes it's an issue that pops up. Today, here, I'll give you an example. Here in South Carolina today, we've got people standing in line for 4 or 5 hours because a lot of our voting machines went down. So we're getting a lot of Twitter questions for candidates. How would you approach this? And we've never had to ask that question before. So we're having to contact a lot of our candidates and say, how would you respond to that? So, yeah, the answer to your question is a little bit of everything.
I'm happy to hear that the Arkansas boys are writing for themselves because, as an Arkansas boy, I'm glad to hear that that one of the candidates at home is his own writer. So that's good news for me.
Well, actually, I think that you could do an amazing good job if you guys could come to Italy and teach our politicians to be able to survive on Twitter, because you have no idea, or maybe you do, on the state of our politicians on Twitter. Some of the most amazing, horrible things have been written on Twitter by our politicians. So I do apologize for them.
I'm available.
Okay, good. Expensive?
I want to address that too. Something that Wesley said. I think candidates now, I should say, are dealing with a very sophisticated audience. I wrote for President Clinton 17 years ago. And so, as is well established, that was long before any president could communicate to you on the level that he can now. Today, I got a letter, an email, again from the president that I read through, and at the bottom it said, "Thanks, Barack." And I've noticed in the last week or so, the emails that are coming from the campaign have switched to Barack and Michelle. 17 years ago, we would never have signed a letter, Bill. He could have signed his letter, Bill, but I certainly would not have done that for him. And so even the use of first names, I think, is a fascinating thing. But I don't think anybody is being fooled that those emails and texts that are coming to me from Barack and Michelle, I can't even say that, I have to say Mr. President still, or Beyonce, are actually coming from them. I think you're very sophisticated and you know that. One of the most popular questions I was asked, well, we couldn't speak while we were actually working there. We weren't allowed to talk to the press, but after I've done a lot of press, everybody always wanted to know, did the president answer his own mail? Did he read all his own letters? And the way I answer that is to say, sure.
The Consular General
is
actually
my friend. Hi, Sarah.
We have the ambassador live.
Oh, sure. Please.
In a moment. Perfect. Thank you. Wesley, can I ask you to call you back in like 5-7 minutes, because we have the embassy online and we want to establish that connection very quickly, and we'll get back to you because I think the conversation is getting quite interesting, so we would like to keep it going. Is that okay? All right, thank you. So we'll get back to you very, very soon. Thank you.